So after a lot of researching, I very quickly realized that there's not a lot of dystopian novels with male main characters. If you're new to my channel, I've been doing a series where I have reviewed the big three of YA dystopia, that being Divergent, The Maze Runner, and The Hunger Games. Now in my video for The Maze Runner, I mainly covered the sexual assault allegations that were made against the author, James Dashner, and in the end I didn't really talk too much about the book itself. So in that video, I asked you guys to leave me some suggestions of YA books that I could cover instead of The Maze Runner, just to kind of even it out and end the series on a good note, right? My criteria was as follows. 1, it had to be a book for young adults. 2, it had to be categorized as dystopian. And 3, it had to have a male main character. Now, I got a lot of great suggestions from you guys, but I realized very quickly that a lot of the books that people were recommending to me, for some reason, were labeled as sci-fi. Like I was reading the summaries, getting a feel for if I wanted to pick up the book or not, and I realized like a lot of these could very easily be categorized as dystopian. I don't know. I'm guessing that sci-fi just probably sells better in male demographics, but who's to say? Either way, after some digging, I did come across a book that I had heard about in the past, but I just never picked up. Why? Because even though I consider myself a serious reviewer, I do still judge books by their covers. And I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I just did not like the cover of this book. But you may have already heard about the book that I'm going to be talking about today. It had a huge resurgence on Book Talk in the 2020s, and it was even picked up for a TV series in 2021, which being that it's 2025, I am afraid that this series is probably in development hell, which would be really unfortunate seeing that I just got into the series. Like I am riding the high of finishing the first book, and you're telling me that after how many years since it's been published, it was picked up for a TV series, and now it's never gonna happen? That would be devastating, especially because after all these years, I finally understand the hype. But for now, we're talking about the book. So without further ado, hello, welcome back. It is a new day, a new sleigh, and a new video where I have something to say. And today I'm going to be talking about Legend. So this book came out, I think, either in 2011 or 2012. And the only reason that I knew of its existence was because back in the day, one of my favorite booktubers of all time actually made a video reviewing it. I had never watched the video, nor had I actually bought the book. And in case you're wondering, that booktuber was Poland Bananas Books, which it took me a really long time to realize that that was what her username spelled out. She was really my first introduction to the online bookish space, and honestly, the reason I'm here now. I was actually waiting until I finished the book to go back and watch her video just to see like if we align or if we're on the same wavelength, but I wanted to record my video first. So let's start with a brief summary. If you don't know what Legend is, it's a dual POV novel, which I think is a first in my little YA dystopian series. The Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, and Divergent were all told in first-person point of view. So this is a bit of a break from the mold, which I did actually appreciate. I know a lot of people don't like dual POVs. I don't really care. The last dual POV novel that I read was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Don't get me started on that book. Anyway, sorry, getting back on topic. Legend is a dual POV novel following our two main characters, Day and June. Day is a boy from the streets who is one of the most wanted criminals in his country, known as the Republic. Despite posters all over the city offering rewards for his capture, no one has ever seen his face. His family lives in one of the poor sectors of the Republic known as Lake, and while they think he's dead, he's secretly providing them with money, food, and other resources. When his younger brother Eden is infected with a deadly virus, Day takes it upon himself to find the cure. This cure is extremely expensive and inaccessible to people in the poor sectors, but Day is gonna get it by any means necessary. Now, our other main character, June, is a military prodigy living at the top of the world. Her brother is a well-respected military official. She is extremely talented, and despite a little rebellious streak, her future looks bright. But they cross paths when Day breaks into a military hospital looking for the plague cure. June's older brother, Mateus, was assigned to that hospital to guard it, and Day stabs him as he's trying to escape. So when Mateus dies after this encounter, June is dispatched to capture her brother's killer. The book continues with June sneaking into Lake to track down Day. She eventually finds him, although she doesn't know it, and they end up getting closer. The book then follows their adventure as she is unknowingly chasing her companion and the revelations that they discover about the Republic. Let me just say that if you enjoy Death Note, you will probably like this book. It's very similar in terms of these like very intelligent individuals battling it out with each other. Despite this being a post-apocalyptic world where they have more access to technology and whatnot, everything that happens is very logic-based. The way that the characters get out of certain situations is all very much based on their own knowledge, skill, and intelligence. But that is the end of the spoiler-free review. If you want to read Legend before going into the rest of my analysis, I suggest you click off the video now. So with that out of the way, let's get on with the rest of the video. Now, this book does have good commentary on real situations that happen in our world, but there is something I want to address first. So this audiobook is 7 hours and 48 minutes, just under 8 hours, right? With the other 3 books I reviewed in this series, they stayed pretty consistent between the 8-hour to 12-hour mark. In general, dystopian is kind of like a fast-paced genre, I would say. Regardless, all of that to say, this book is pretty short and pretty fast. And yet the one thing that distracted me throughout the entire book, all 7 hours of it, was the romance between Day and June. Now, romance is not uncommon for dystopia, right? Funny enough, this book had the fastest romance arc out of all the other books I read. Thomas and Teresa from The Maze Runner, they don't even kiss in the first book. Their romance is just a lot of like blushing and stolen glances, but nothing more than that. Tristan 4 from Divergent, I mean, it's a little bit more romantic. I mean, she tells him that she loves him by the end of book 1. I would argue it's a little fast, but given the context of what they go through together, it makes sense. Katniss and Peeta, well, their romance just kind of had to be fast-tracked because they were gonna die, and it had to be convincing enough so that the Capitol would give them donations in the arena. So their romance arc was also fast, but it was for plot reasons. The romance between these two characters, Day and June, mind you, 15-year-olds, they had the romantic tension of an adult contemporary romance novel. There were times when I was reading this book and I would see them flirting with each other, and I literally was like, I need to take a step back. I feel like I'm intruding. I feel like I shouldn't be here. This seems like an incredibly intimate moment that I shouldn't be a part of. First off, Day is described as being incredibly attractive, beautiful by multiple people throughout the book. He's kind of like Finnick from the Hunger Games, where he's someone that is attractive and knows it and uses it to his advantage. Day is extremely cocky, which, you know, for the most part, is an endearing characteristic in love interests. And maybe it's just like the time period that this book was published, but there are moments, instances where Day comes across as being a little creepy. Yes, I know a lot of people crush on him. He is the main character. And I mean, I saw snippets from the graphic novel. He seems to be a good-looking dude. But even then, reading some of the stuff that he does in this book, I was uncomfortable. So the book starts out with him just being this like smug little rascal, if you will. He's smiling at women in the street, like he's just using his charm. Whatever, standard. At one point in the story, he walks into a bar looking for information. He meets the bartender, Kaide, and starts questioning her and probing her for some information that he heard on the streets. They're very obviously flirting with one another, which is fine, because I'm gonna assume that in this dystopia, in this post-apocalyptic world, the drinking age is lowered significantly, because otherwise that would mean you have a at least 21-year-old woman flirting with a 15-year-old kid. Yeah, he's a kid. I don't care. Fight me. So for my mental health, Kaide is also 15 and she just happens to be working in a bar. But moving on from that, at some point in the story, Day is thinking to himself, he's like, man, if I wasn't here on business, if I didn't have stuff to do, maybe I would stay and kiss her. Maybe I would kiss her a couple times. And I was like, oh, what an interesting thing to say. You know, I guess he's just not one to beat around the bush. It was just very odd. Like, he's not saying it in a cute, like, hopeless romantic kind of way where he's like, oh man, Kyrie's so pretty, I just want to kiss her. He's saying it like it's a heist. He's like, I'm gonna steal a kiss from her. What? Ugh. But then when he joins up with June, at this point, she doesn't know who he is. She's just like, he's a very attractive guy and he saved me. So simultaneously, he doesn't know that she's a government lapdog. All they know is that they're both incredibly intelligent people and they're both attractive. And the scene where they have their first kiss, the way that it's described scared me. So they're talking, they're having a very romantically charged conversation, and he's tipsy. He's had a little bit too much to drink. And out of nowhere, he just kind of like grabs her and pushes her up against the wall in an alley and starts making out with her. No, can I kiss you? No, like gentle or slow kind of reach. He just goes all in. There was really no build-up, nothing gentle about it. He was kissing her like he was on a time crunch. And you know, I really like that nowadays when you have these romantic scenes, there is an emphasis on the consent. And when we talk about consent in romance scenes in whatever kind of book, people always think that it like ruins the mood, which I'm sorry, just could not be further from the truth. I argue some of the most like beautifully written romance scenes I've ever read have consent. Even just like a simple like, can I kiss you is like, oh my God, bro, I am literally gonna scream. It's so good. But anyway, focusing on this book, the romance between Day and June is just overall a little unsettling. Because for me, I think it's more so based on the lust and passion versus genuine affection. Which, listen, if you've been in an environment with intellectuals, the romantic tension between two smart people is crazy. Because in general, I think when you're able to respect your partner on an intellectual level, it strengthens your relationship so much because you are valuing that person outside of what they can offer romantically. Overall, it's just nice to be acknowledged on an intellectual level. Plus, nothing quite kills the fire of love like having a man who never learned to tie his shoes because it was too hard mansplain the solar system to you. Or when you share with your partner a fun fact that you learned that apparently the reason that the human spine is curved is because during evolution, humans stood up too fast. So in order to absorb the shock and force of us literally stepping on the ground, our spine has to be curved to kind of like make a little spring for our head that is stupid heavy. And then that person doesn't believe you. And when you beg your partner to just Google it, they pull up ChatGPT. Listen, I'm not the smartest person in the world, nor would I ever claim to be. But I will be damned if I let a man fact check me with AI. Yeah, these are totally made up scenarios. Definitely did not happen to me. Definitely is not my real life experience and definitely did not happen more than once. So you have these two extremely intelligent characters that do have a lot of chemistry with each other. It isn't my favorite part about the book because inevitably when June turns in Day and she questions him about the death of her brother and he says, no, I did not kill him. The only reason she gives him the benefit of the doubt is because she has feelings for him. Sure, she has seen him be kind and caring towards other people, but she really does not know this person. And at this point in the book, she's fully indoctrinated. The Republic has told her, this person killed your brother. She has no reason to think that they're lying to her. And even if he didn't kill her brother, he's still a vigilante that has openly defied the government that she serves. So by all means, she should not trust this dude. He is a literal criminal. But again, it's these romantic feelings that she has for him that allows her to doubt the Republic. I think I would have liked it better if they toned down the romantic aspect and more so focused on what I mentioned earlier, the respect. They recognize each other on an intellectual level. They know that they are both very smart people. So I think it would have been a little bit more effective if she had extended this benefit of the doubt based on this respect that she has for him. I think it would have helped build their relationship a little better so that when they inevitably get together by the end of the book, it's more believable. They have a relationship that's based on something greater than I like kissing you. And honestly, I think it would have also made Day a little bit more likable, because to me, he's a little pushy. Personally, I like a man that's able to balance, being cocky and confident in his looks and in his charm, but can still be gentle and kind and caring and, a little tender-hearted. Someone like Peeta from the Hunger Games. Oh, you thought I forgot about him in the last video, didn't you? No. Peeta Malark, Josh Hutcherson, my short Latin king, you own my heart. Continuing on with that, I now want to talk about how intelligence plays into the greater dystopian themes in this novel. So we quickly learn in the book that in this society, children at the age of 10 have to take what is essentially the post-apocalyptic version of the SAT. Their score on this test then determines where they will go in the future, whether they will be educated, if they're going to a prestigious academy that will then lead to a position in government, or if they fail that test, they will then be sent to labor camps. In the book, we learn that June and Day are the only two people in recorded history to have ever gotten a perfect score on the trial. But where June was sent to one of the most prestigious academies in the Republic, Day's scores were altered. In the system, it made it look like he failed, and he was sent to one of these labor camps. When June discovers Day's actual score, she asks, why? Why would they waste a brilliant mind like his when he could be a very valuable asset to the Republic? Why didn't they send him to the academy like June and train him to become a soldier? She never gets her questions answered, at least not in this first book, but to the reader, the answer is clear. Intelligence is dangerous. June and Day come from entirely different backgrounds. June was raised in a family that had long-standing ties to the Republic. Her father worked as a scientist trying to manufacture cures against the plague, and her brother eventually became a well-respected military official. So by all means, she was raised in an environment that valued loyalty to the Republic. As for Day, we don't get a lot about his early life. It mainly comes in flashes. In one memory, Day tells us one story about his father. We don't know much about him other than he had a job that allowed him to travel into the colonies. On his travels, he finds a special artifact that he gives to Day, but it's incredibly dangerous. This artifact is a quarter. This quarter has the date that it was minted, 1990 something, I think it was. And specifically, it says the United States of America. Because in this post-apocalyptic world, they don't say it outright, but the Republic has led people to believe that the United States of America never existed, that it's a myth. So for Day's dad, this is evidence, and this is treasonous to even have. So they hide it in a pendant, and that is what Day wears around his neck for the majority of the book. They don't give a ton of details on why the Republic is trying to say that the United States doesn't exist, but the message is clear. This one quarter could get them killed. There's another instance where Day is a kid. I forget how old they said he specifically was. Definitely under 10. He was playing in the yard with his brother when a police officer is walking by and he accidentally hits him in the face with a wadded up piece of paper. This officer gets so angry that he punches Day in the face and kicks him. And when Day's older brother John begs for forgiveness, the officer only stops once they've given him all the money that they have. And not only that, after this officer takes everything, all their savings, he says, "I smell a chicken cooking. Give me that too." This was a meal that their mother sold everything valuable that they ever had in order to afford. It was a celebration that John got a job. It was supposed to be a momentous occasion, and this one officer stole all of that from them. Needless to say, Day is no stranger to the cruelty of the Republic. He's seen exactly what happens to the majority of citizens that are living in the Republic, that being the people that are in the poor sectors. So the environment that Day was raised in is not so sympathetic to the Republic. Therefore, Day's intelligence is a threat. It can very easily be used against the Republic. But June, Her intelligence is used as an asset. The reason that they don't see her as a threat is because she's already been indoctrinated. She's been raised in an environment that has never questioned the actions of the Republic. But keep in mind, even though June is an extremely intelligent person, she's only as smart as the Republic allows her to be. For example, her knowledge of the colonies, the kind of treatment that people receive in the poor sectors of the Republic, as well as just overall history, is limited. Someone like Day is able to look at the Republic's actions and see the overall corruption. He's thinking about it logically, whereas someone like June, even though she is, again, a very smart person, it's at war with her own belief system. She's experiencing cognitive dissonance between what she was led to believe and what she can actually see with her own two eyes. The foundation of her intelligence is based on an unwavering faith in the Republic. She has no reason to believe that they would do anything to harm her or other people. And if there are enemies to the Republic, it's for good reason. But it's only when she's able to look at the situation objectively that she sees the corruption for what it is. Because when you read the book, you see someone like June, someone who is so intelligent and aware of her surroundings all the time, someone who is able to distinguish a spy from a soldier based on the shine of a singular button on their coats, and you wonder, how can someone that smart still be indoctrinated? But that's the thing. The only reason she was able to believe the lies from the Republic was because her knowledge was restricted. They weren't being honest about everything that they were doing. When the Republic was distributing vaccines, but only to the rich, sending kids that are 10 years old into labor camps for failing these trials, June never questioned why. She never questioned what actually happened at those labor camps. She never questioned how the Republic was able to get these vaccines so quickly, and how, despite all this research around the plague, how does it keep showing up? How have they not managed to eradicate the plague, and yet somehow they still get a vaccine and a cure before it starts affecting the rich people? These are things that she just never questioned, and therefore she was never able to get a full picture of what the Republic actually was, which is what made her, child prodigy or not, complacent, which is honestly such a blaring red flag for what's happening in real life. We see it over and over again, whether it's dystopian novels, regular movies, TV shows, any kind of media you consume, you will see this theme come up over and over, where intelligence is almost always the villain to the oppressor. Needless to say, there is a reason that colleges and universities are being defunded for not aligning with the current regime. There's a reason that books are being banned. And there's a reason that higher education is hidden behind a paywall that's only accessible if you're willing to take on debt. In a world where there's lead in our pipes, plastic in our food, weapons in the community spaces that are meant to be safe, when someone tells you, despite all this, that the biggest threat to us right now is a book, you should be scared. You know, I'm very new to this series, to this franchise. I've only read the first book, Legend, right? But we are absolutely seeing the fictional republic being formed in real time, where knowledge is restricted, and whatever we do have access to is heavily altered and propagandized. But again, this is what we've always known. The tool for liberation and simultaneously the enemy of the oppressors has always been knowledge. Honestly, the theme of intelligence in this book is very subtle and simultaneously in your face. It's easy to see how the Republic controls the kind of information that June has access to, and the more she learns, the more she starts to oppose them. But connecting the dots and seeing the overall bigger picture is a little challenging, because this book really more so focuses on the actions taken by the Republic, what they are literally doing and how it's corrupt, versus focusing on how they maintain power through corruption. Like they tell you, the Republic is actively poisoning its own citizens. The Republic is killing even their own allies if they show any sign of opposition, and they're using their own citizens as test monkeys. That's evil in and of itself. But what's hidden underneath in the subtext is how they got there. How did the Republic come to power? How do they maintain it? And how far are they willing to go? This is the part that's important to focus on. This is what you can easily apply to the real world. The other thing I really want to focus on is one character that stuck out to me a little bit more than June and Day, if I'm being honest. I mean, they're cool because they're like smart and badass or whatever, but this character stuck out to me personally because of how sinister they are. Thomas is the perfect government lapdog. He's fully indoctrinated and happy to carry out any order that's given to him. Thomas and Matthias were very good friends before he died, and of course, Thomas has a bit of a crush on June. Although crush is putting it lightly, he's actually extremely creepy, possessive, and obsessed with her. Matthias's body was barely in the ground before he thought it was okay to start hitting on his baby sister. But anyway, Thomas is also a reoccurring character. When we're in June's perspective, they are kind of like a duo. Thomas is partly helping her with her tracking down Day and the overall investigation with Matthias's death. And it's only as June is getting closer and closer with Day that Thomas starts morphing from this semi-polite soldier into an actual monster. Because by all means, when he's introduced, he's someone who is extremely polite. He doesn't call June by her name. He calls her Miss, I forgot what her last name is. It starts with a P. He's very cordial, soft-spoken, and he just seems, like a little shy, nice guy. That quickly changes when we get a scene of him interrogating a spy from the colonies, and June describes his facial reactions as being happy, excited, and otherwise looking as if he was taking pleasure in the torture of another person. He was actively beating a man to death and was happy to do it. From there, it just kind of goes downhill. But there's a moment later on in the book when Day is captured and Thomas is interrogating him. He's more so beating him because he's jealous that Day got to kiss June before he did. During this, Thomas reveals that he actually grew up in the poor sectors. And he says this with such disdain for Day. He goes on a little villain monologue about how he pulled himself up by the bootstraps. He followed the rules, he played everything by the book, and now look at him. He's a successful military soldier. He wasn't just complaining like everyone else from the poor sectors. He actually worked to get where he is now. And it was through this hard work that he became successful. Sound familiar? As a Latina, this rhetoric runs so rampant in our community. This fallacy of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps is the mantra of so many Hispanic people. The minute someone makes over 50K, the switch is so instant. Where for people that believe in the American dream, people like Thomas, these very real, very genuine barriers are just minor obstacles that make their success stories all the more gratifying. And these same people will then turn to everyone else, those they deem failures, aka those of us that don't have the boot kicking at our uvula day and night, and they will say, these barriers don't exist. Nothing is stopping you from making more money and having a good life. You're just lazy. You're not working hard enough. These same people that will say over and over, telling you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, will then say, life isn't fair when you work hard and still fail. Because the reality is that you could be the hardest worker in your company and still get laid off. You could have a master's degree and still not get hired. You could do everything right and never break out of the cycle of poverty. Because the real problem isn't that people aren't working hard enough. It's that the system that was designed by the 1% and the people in power is working as intended. The system maintains a labor force that has no choice but to work hard labor jobs in undesirable conditions for pennies, just so that they can live in neighborhoods that are unsafe and polluted by the very companies that they're forced to work for. And it's people like Thomas that not only uphold these fallacies, but also help to maintain the separation between the people. Because if we remember from the Hunger Games, division is another tool used by the oppressors. And like any dystopian novel will tell you, dealing with intelligent people is hard enough, but intelligent and united, that is a lethal combo for fascism. So in this sense, the Republic is working overtime not only to keep its people divided, but also to keep them ignorant. Now, as for the overall plot and world building of this book, I did enjoy the way that it was set up. A lot of the world building isn't overtly explained. We never get like a direct, this is how the world came to be, this is an explanation of everything from the characters. A lot of it you just kind of have to pick up through the context clues, which I like it because it shows a trust in the reader. The author writes in such a way that she knows that you'll understand what she's trying to say and be able to pick up on these context clues. She finds a good balance because a lot of it relies on our own knowledge of the United States, obviously. The setting uses a lot of the same states, and otherwise, like, it's in some way based in a kind of reality. It's a good blend of a background that the reader already has, as well as new information that is fictional and unique to this world. And because there's not a lot of time taken to in-depth explain everything, you're immersed into the story. You really kind of hit the ground running with this book, and I actually really enjoyed the way it was executed. At points, it does feel a little easy to get confused, but it does make up for it with the pacing. Because the book moves so quickly, you're not really at risk of forgetting anything important. Plus, any terms that you need to remember are constantly brought up again and reinforced. So even if you're not like 100% paying attention, passively you're still able to keep up with the story. And it definitely leaves you wanting more. That huge analysis that I just spent the first half of my video on was all based on very small details. My whole rant about Thomas came from one scene. My whole thing about intelligence was, again, just from the subtext. Overall, for the entire series, there's still a lot of major government overthrow that needs to happen. I will say that I think this book more so focuses on like the heist adventure aspect, more so than it does on the dystopian. It's really only by the end in part 2 when we start getting more of those themes, but it definitely feels like something that will continue to develop in the rest of the series. And just based on this first book, I really couldn't tell you what it is that it was trying to say about oppression overall, or just its general message in relation to dystopia as a genre. And it definitely feels like there's something more to the Republic than what they're telling us. We still have to figure out what exactly happened with the Republic and the colonies and why they're so at odds with each other. We still have to find out the goal of the colonies, why they keep infiltrating the Republic, and just overall what the bigger battle to come is supposed to be about. So it does leave you with a lot of questions, but it again makes you intrigued to continue the series. That being said, it definitely still has those dystopian aspects, so I'm not complaining. And I think there is a good balance where the author tells you exactly what you need to hear while still leaving you wanting more. Now, as I said for my other videos, do I qualify this as dystopian? I would say kind of. Again, in the first part of the book, I think it leans a little more towards adventure, kind of sci-fi. It's really only towards the end when we focus more on the structure of government, corruption, power dynamics, and all that, that I really get those dystopian themes, which again, I think will get developed in the rest of the series. So I think overall, it probably qualifies as dystopian, but in the first book, it's not like the central focus. It's definitely there, but it gets developed slowly. Because like in the first part, you're more so enticed with like the drama, this like cat and mouse chase between Day and June. Like it's that thrill that keeps you going through the book. And it's only when you further get enticed with this corruption, what is the Republic hiding, and all those aspects that you really start to get that dystopian vibe. That being said, it's definitely more dystopian than The Maze Runner is. So with that being said, that's the end of the video. I actually really enjoyed this book. I would be intrigued to finish the series. I've yet to do it for any of the other books I read. I never finished Divergent. I never finished The Maze Runner. Don't hate me for this. I never actually finished The Hunger Games. Granted, like I know what happens. I watched the movie, but for some reason, I just never read Mockingjay. I am a little bit of a chronic series starter, but I never follow through. I kind of have commitment issues when it comes to series. I think the only one I've ever finished successfully is Percy Jackson. I never even finished Harry Potter. And then by the time I was ready to do so, J.K. Rowling became transphobic, and now I'll never know what happens. I've successfully managed to dodge spoilers of Harry Potter for my entire life. I don't know what happens in the Deathly Hallows. And I don't care to find out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Have you read Legend before? What were your thoughts? Do you agree, disagree? What do you have to add? The best thing I think to come out of my dystopian retrospective series is hearing you guys like add your own thoughts, because more often than not I'll go through the comments and people will point out things that like I never considered before, and I'm like, oh my god, you're so smart, like how did I not see that? And yeah, just like in general, I get a lot of enjoyment reading your guys' comments, and it helps expand my own thinking. So whatever you have to say, leave it down in the comments below. And of course, you can follow me on all my social media at Listen to Kristen on TikTok, Instagram, and BlueSky. And if you haven't heard, I am also coming out with my own book series, which is called The Magical Morrisons. Be sure to add it to your lists on Goodreads, and if you can, no pressure, you can also check out the links in my description to pre-order the books. I am going to be making a video where I go over what each book is about, talk a little bit about how I came to write a book series, and just overall more information on the series, the books, and everything you'll ever want to know, so keep an eye out for that video. Now, technically, this is supposed to be the end of my YA dystopian retrospective. I know we're all sad. This was a fan favorite. But there's one more book I want to read. It's not part of the big three. I've yet to meet another soul that has read the book. It's kind of obscure, and from what I remember, extremely cringy. But it was one of my favorite novels growing up, and I barely remember anything from it. And it is technically a YA dystopian. So as a fun little bonus episode, I will be reviewing one more book. And then who knows, maybe every now and then, based on your suggestions, I'll do another one. But this will tentatively be the end of the series. The last few videos of my series have really just been me screaming at you to see beyond the literature, see beyond the fantasy, and apply it to real life. And it's a little heavy. So I thought it would be fun to just take it a little easy, because I know for sure that this book, despite being titled YA dystopian, it's a stretch. So hopefully that video will be lighthearted, maybe a gentle roast, if you will. But yeah, that's in the works, so stay tuned. But anyway, that's the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a chocolate cupcake with my name on it waiting for me downstairs. Thank you.